You want to have someone who you really enjoy their company and is your best friend.
And we call it being in a parallel partnership. You know, you have your lives, you got that track that you've been on, you got all the things you've been doing, and do them side by side,
Yeah.
and you make a lot more accommodation for each other's lifestyle
Makes
and
it
what they
so
do.
much easier to find someone who's more similar to you.
This is episode number 622 with Dr. Gloria Horsley and Dr. Frank Powers. They are going to be talking about the secrets of senior dating, and it's based on a book that they wrote. They have a fascinating story that I think you are not going to want to miss. Hi, everybody. I am Sandy Weiner, and welcome back to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late to go on your last first date. And to support you on your journey to lasting love, I've written 2 books, and my third book is almost ready for publishing. The first book is Becoming a Woman of Value: How to Thrive in Life and Love. And this is a book that is really a guidebook for anyone who wants to go from surviving to thriving in their life. It's kind of my journey after my divorce and how I really discovered my worth. And I would love to share that with you guys. There are 30 chapters, and each chapter has an exercise and a tip and a story. Really value-packed, jam-packed book. The second book is called Choice Points in Dating, and this book is a guidebook for dating. I wrote this book because there are so many people who don't believe they're at choice when it comes to their love life. So this book will help you in every part of your dating journey, from how to even think about dating, your mindset, to which dating sites are best, how to make your must-have and deal breaker lists, how to know if you should stay or go, and how to go on your last first date. Both of these books are available on Amazon for Kindle or paperback, and Choice Points is now available as an audiobook. This week's tip on becoming a woman of value is step number 29, listen to understand. This is one of Stephen Covey's tips, and I love it so much because we tend to listen just to have our opinion known, or to make somebody else wrong, or not to reflect at all. And that leads to us making assumptions and not really being present with people. So my challenge to you this week is to take a moment to really listen a little bit better than you usually do. I know I'm guilty of this. I can be excited about wanting to share something with somebody and I'm not fully listening. So listen to understand. And before I bring on my guests, I want to invite you to join my Facebook group. It is called Your Last First Date, and it is for women over 40 who are looking for their last first date. They may be in a relationship already, or they're not even started with the dating process. This is a group that is positive, supportive, and very much monitored, which is very unlike most groups that are out there. So join us at Your Last First Date. And now for my guest, Dr. Gloria Horsley is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's a clinical nurse specialist and president and co-founder of the Open to Hope Foundation. Dr. Frank Powers is a licensed psychologist, and he served as the chairman of the Psychiatric Security Review Board for the state of Arizona. After they met online and fell in love 2 years ago, they wrote a book together called Open to Love: The Secrets of Senior Dating, which is now available on Amazon. They wrote it to help others thrive in the world of dating when they're not 30 or 40 years old. So senior dating is alive and well, and we can't wait to hear from our 2 guests today. Well, welcome to the show, Gloria and Frank.
Well, thank you,
Well, thank you.
Sandy.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about how you 2 met, what your backstories are. I know you both have your own little backstory. So who would like
Right.
to go first?
Well, Gloria, ladies first.
Oh, okay.
Well, my husband I was married for 60 years, and my husband got a staph infection after his like 12th back surgery. He'd had really severe health problems for about 4 years before he died. But so after he died, I got involved in a relationship because I'm a golfer, and there was a guy whose wife had died a few days after Phil, and we ended up golfing together for about 7 months. We ended up in a relationship, and this was fairly early. It was in the first year of my husband's death. And
She violated all of the things that she would tell the client.
I've been a family therapist for 40 years. I've been telling widows not to do anything for the first year. And I'm like, whoa, that's not the way life rolls. So anyway, I ended up with this guy, and he actually could not deal with my family. I mean, I've got a very large family and a big life. And he just said, this is too much for me. And he ghosted me, if
Oh,
he
yeah.
just cut me off and said, I'm leaving the key to the
The
house.
best thing that ever happened for me.
So I had learned so much, and after being a therapist for 40 years, I had, given a lot of bad advice to people. I don't know, not bad advice, but whoever said that you're not supposed to do anything for the first year. I mean, where is that written? Whatever studies have ever been done on that. But you'll find that I would say the majority of therapists, when you say, Frank.
Yes, I think so. I used to say it.
Yeah, yeah. And Frank's been a therapist for 40 years also. So we said the same thing. And who's to know how life rolls?
Exactly. It's all individual, and the people really have to listen to themselves. And the more they know themselves, the more correct decisions
Yeah.
they'll probably make.
So I
agree.
got into a relationship. I ended up selling, we had a summer home too, and I ended up selling that in the first year because I didn't want to go down there anymore. And I have to say, it's been almost 4 years, and I've never regretted selling it.
No.
So, and I haven't regretted, what happened was I got involved with this other relationship, which was a good thing, because had I met Frank before that, I don't think we would have both said as therapists, this isn't okay.
Yeah, I would have been suspicious about how ready she was for a relationship. But after she was ghosted and told me about it, I thought it was absolutely hilarious that this guy couldn't handle her family, because she has the sweetest family. So I just love it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
So anyway, there I am. The guy's ghosted me. I'm in Hawaii because what happened was we were having a big family vacation in Hawaii, and that's when he said, I'm done. This is too much for me. And so I decided to write a book for widows because, as I said, I realized how much I learned from the experience of actually having it happen. So he had told me that he had online dated. And I'm like, well, okay, online dated. My granddaughter
What
said,
is online dating?
yeah,
Right?
my granddaughter said to me, Grandma, after my husband died and I was with this other guy, she's like, Grandma, are you sure you don't want to play the field? And I said, Eliza, at my age, there is no field.
And Eliza was right. There is a field.
There is a field, surprisingly enough. So anyway, I decided to write a book for widows. I actually got COVID in Hawaii, so I was in my hotel room for a couple of weeks, when I mean
Yes.
days, and I couldn't leave Hawaii. My doctor said, do not go to the airport. You're going to end up,
Having trouble.
having trouble. So, stay. He sent me medication from the mainland and said, stay in your hotel room. So I decided to write a book for widows while I'm there to try to make sense of this whole thing. And I decided to go online. So I got on Silver Singles. I just Googled, older seniors dating. And I ended up, long story short, meeting Frank when I got back to the mainland. I was staying with my sister in Arizona, and Frank.
And I had been recently divorced a year and a half before, and was thinking about, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to be ending my career. Maybe I'll go to a senior community because the numbers of women outnumber the men 2-to-1. So I stand a better chance if I went to a senior community. And I was thinking about that, and I said, well, I had met my wife on Silver Singles. Maybe I ought to try one more time. Thank God I did, because I got a chance to meet Gloria.
And we met, and I'll have to say, I told Frank, I said, this is just research. I want you to know I'm writing a book.
I looked in her eyes and I said, no, this is much more than research.
So it was kind of instant. We knew,
Oh yeah, we had a real connection. We had studied with some of the same people. We knew the same theories. Our backgrounds were so similar, and that's one of the things that we feel that is true, certainly through our experience, is that in your 30s, you really, in a sense, look for someone who is exciting and different and adds to the relationship, and then you spend the next 15 years trying to make the person more like you.
Right.
We're saying as seniors, try to find someone who's much more similar to you. You don't want to have to go through all those issues of difference and whatever. Go with what's familiar, go with what you know, and someone who's like you. That makes it so much easier, and you don't have the same amount of time that you do when you're 30. So you want to have someone who you really enjoy their company and is your best friend.
And we call it being in a parallel partnership. You have your lives, you got that track that you've been on, you got all the things you've been doing, and do them side by side,
Yes.
and you make a lot more accommodation for each other's lifestyle
Makes
and
it
what they
so
do.
much easier to find someone who's more similar to you. We also in the book mention that it's really helpful to make a list. On one side, you put down all of the things that work for you in relationships in the past that you had, even if you've been married for 60 years. Put down the qualities that work for you. On the other side of the page, put down the qualities that did not work for you in relationships. And then you take a look at and say, okay, I have a formula here. I know what works for me and what doesn't. So I need to apply that information in meeting anyone and finding out who fits that side of the equation that has worked for me in the past.
Yeah, let me back up for a minute. I want to hear more about the tips and the book and all that stuff, but I want to first reflect a little bit about your different backgrounds and where you came from. So, Gloria, you were widowed. Frank, I think you've been married a few times, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you obviously believe in love, believe in marriage because you keep doing it.
Well, I am really persistent.
You get it right.
Failure does not mean that I won't try again.
That's good.
And
And
that's what
I
we say
think
to people.
I think it's a good trait. People often will tell me in my practice that they're nervous to date somebody who's been multiply married, and
Exactly.
they make it to mean something like they're not capable of being in a relationship. That's one way to look at it. But I've dated people who were married several times and maybe widowed and divorced twice, and they just love being part of a couple. They may not have learned everything they needed to learn each time, but relationships are they're kind of research. We don't always know everything going in, and I think it's important to give people a chance as long as they don't have any of those big red flags.
Well, yes, and also we need to find out from the person about those past relationships and what happened to them and why weren't they. People over time do grow differently, and sometimes you grow apart. And if you're not someone who will accept mediocrity in a relationship and you want the highest and best, then you may, with a partner, decide that, hey, we've grown apart and I think we're different people now and we want different things. And maybe it is okay to just let go if there's no one else that's going to be hurt by this. And if it's not working anymore, then you have a choice to say, hey, this has been wonderful. However, it's not wonderful anymore, and we've got to face that.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing in every aspect of life. I was speaking to a former client today, and she has been in this kind of career transition for a while. She's not happy working in corporate, but she's also not ready to leap out of that field yet because she hasn't established something else. But she's not going to stay stuck forever because she's not that kind of person. And I think people need to hear that, like that we don't have to stay in bad relationships because we believe nothing else is out there, or that we can't get any better than this, which is what a lot of people do think, right?
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right that, if your spouse has passed away, like with Gloria, there's not the tainted thing, well, what's wrong with you? Are you not relationship material? With divorce, it is different. And you do have a stigma that somehow you're a failure. And I saw it as being, I have had very successful marriages that only lasted for a certain amount of time. And I'm a serial monogamist, and I really, in a sense, don't want to be satisfied with something that's not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
And Gloria is as good as it could be.
Aw.
No, I'm
So
not.
I'm very happy.
Ah,
No,
that's
I
beautiful.
think, and Frank, part of your issues were, though, you sometimes picked women who
Yes,
had
yes, yes,
some
yeah,
qualities
yeah.
that you've really had to look
Are
at.
you familiar with Hendricks and his work
Sure.
of why people are drawn to people?
Yeah.
I was always looking for a replica of my mother and trying to make that person and more perfect, So I
Hmm.
would pick unconsciously people who had flaws and I wanted to fix them like I wanted to fix my mom. So that was a issue for me that I had to learn and overcome.
Well, it's good that you have the awareness because most people don't. And I remember one of the guys I dated, I asked him what went wrong in his marriage. And he said, well, she was a bully. And I said, who did she remind you of from your past? And he said, well, my brother was a bully. I said, oh, so you married your brother? And he goes, wow,
Right.
I never thought of it that way. And he had been through a lot of therapy, but nobody ever made the connection because it's often
Yeah.
apparent.
And I
And
think that's a contribution that Hendrix made was that,
yeah,
most of the time we are picking someone that we're familiar with. It may not be good for us, but they're familiar. So, and the unconscious thinks that it's safe because it's familiar, and
yeah.
that which is familiar may not be safe. You may be just redoing the same process that you grew up with.
I think it's
Mhm.
important. It's been important for me with Frank to deal with the fact, and I don't think people realize this. You come into a relationship and you complain about your past partners, but you loved them at one time.
Yes.
And they
Mhm.
did bring something to the relation, and there's something valuable. And I would say for the women that have Frank's been with or been married to, I appreciate the fact he didn't pick bad people. These are people who had qualities for whatever
Mhm.
reason, but you did love those people when you met them and when you get
And
involved with them.
exactly. Yeah.
And, so I think for women who are dating or men who are dating divorcees, and people whose spouses have died, there's both sides of every issue in every relationship, and you have to accept the fact that I did love my husband
Mhm.
and that he did, loved his wives at one time, and
Mhm.
that we do love people. I think people are good, and there's a lot of love in the world to go around.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful, compassionate way to look at life and to look at love. And unfortunately, a lot of people who've been hurt, they carry the hurt with them and they become closed down and bitter. And that protects them, but also keeps them from intimacy and the
Keeps
love
them
they're
stuck.
seeking.
Yes,
Yeah.
and alone.
Yes,
And
very much alone.
consequently, the fact that Frank feels that way, I feel that way. I can talk about my husband and he can talk about his ex-wives.
Hmm.
Like if we go somewhere that you've been with them, like Balboa,
Yes.
you know, he can talk about going sailing and I can say, who did you go with? And, what did you guys do? And,
Oh, it was number three.
Well, that's important
so
because,
so you can enjoy their full life
yeah,
and not have to shut down these little cubby holes of life.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
my kids can talk to Frank about my husband,
Well,
which
that's
is
good.
great. And
Yeah.
we can make a joke. I can say something he said, and Frank's fine with it.
And I will say that a lot of people, based on what you just said, Frank, about a lot of people's ideas about divorced people being flawed and that they're just, have all these inherent issues that you may not want to get involved with because they screwed up. The same thing can be true of widows and widowers. And, I think a lot of people have the opposite idea that it was an ideal relationship, everything was great, and then that person died. And I don't believe that either. I think that when I've worked with widows and widowers, I always ask them to tell me about the relationship because I don't assume that everything was perfect. Even if it was a great relationship, there might be things that they would do differently in the next relationship.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to say this, and Frank and I both agree. We've talked about it a lot. we wouldn't have married each other originally.
If we met in our
It's
30s.
not like, wow, we could have
No.
had all these years together.
No.
No, I wouldn't, we just wouldn't have matched up at all. I was a nester, you know, I
And I
wanted
was an
kids right away.
adventurer, yes.
You know, we just had a wholly different
Totally
goals.
different orientation in our 30s, yes.
Yeah,
But it's interesting coming together at this point, our interests and our levels of compatibility and having fun. And that's one of the things is that when you get career out of the way and when your children are
it's,
grown, now it's all about having fun and companionship and being with your best friend and enjoying things that maybe you hadn't got a chance to enjoy when you were younger. And so as a couple now, we're just having fun. And this is what it's all about, I think, at this point, is that you want to be with your best friend and someone that you really enjoy doing things with. When you're in your 30s, you're so busy being a parent or being a worker and all of that, that you live sometimes almost parallel lives and you don't spend that much time just together. We're together all the time and we're really enjoying it.
right. We're together, but we cannot be together. I can
Oh,
go
yeah,
read or
absolutely.
go for a walk.
Yeah,
But
Gloria's gone on separate vacations since we've been together, and it's really worked out fine. You know, she
Yeah.
goes with her daughter somewhere, and I have my sculpture and other things that I do. So it's really lovely that we have the freedom and maturity to enjoy this time together.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is a beautiful time to meet and to be in relationship. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Amazon Music Unlimited. You can listen to over 70 million songs and thousands of playlists and stations. Plus, you can now stream your favorite podcasts like Last First Date Radio. You can listen to any song, anytime, anywhere, on any of your devices. Get Amazon Music Unlimited for free for 30 days. Just head on over to getamazonmusic.com/last1st date to learn more and claim this offer. Tell us why you decided to write this book.
Well, as I said, I was going to write a book for widows because there was a lot I wanted to say to widows, what I'd learned by being in a relationship as a widow. And then I met Frank and I'm like, whoa, why don't you write this book with me and bring in the male perspective? And because I don't have the male perspective, I've learned a tremendous amount from what Frank has written in the book and talking about the book. So Frank decided to join me.
Yes. I had been married to a psychologist for 17 years before I met Gloria, and we tried to write a book together, and it was a dismal failure. And Gloria and I, it was just so easy. We sat across from one another in a desk facing one another and talking about our mutual experiences and what we wanted to say to people who are thinking about or saying, you know, I don't think a dog is enough. I really would like to have a relationship, but it's scary, you know, to think about a relationship at this point. Is anyone out there? All of those questions that people tend
Am I
to
going to
ask
get
themselves.
scammed?
And am I going to get scammed? And where would I meet people? I mean, I don't necessarily work anymore, and I don't necessarily have friends that are going to set me up. So where am I going to meet people? So for us, we said, you know, we would like to deal with some of those fears. And why don't we do that in a book and have some fun? And it's been terribly helpful in our relationship because we talk about every issue possible that people might come up with that clients of ours did when we were working and our own experience. So we try to give people a real roadmap about how and what are the best ways to meet people, to find out if this person is really compatible with you, and what are the ways in which you can find someone who you can spend the rest of your life with so that you do not have to deal with loneliness. And as you well know, loneliness is the number one mental health issue for people who are seniors.
Yeah, you know, I have a nursing background. Back in the day, I was a clinical nurse specialist in psychiatry. And one of the things we said in the 80s and early 90s was high tech, high touch. And I don't hear that anymore. I haven't heard anybody say it. It was just when technology was coming in. And we said, you know, all this technology, all these machines in the room, nurses, you need to touch your patients more.
Mhm.
And now my thought is you've got a computer in your hand, your cell phone. Every time you pick it up, think about touching somebody, your partner, your dog, go out in the garden, touch a tree, touch nature, you know, the high tech, high touch.
Yeah.
Mm.
Feel connected.
Yeah, that's such an important tip. You shared a tip before about finding somebody who's similar to you rather than somebody who's very different. Is that one of the most important tips that you have?
I think so. And also to realize that, in 1900, the average lifespan was 46 years of age. And now it's 78 years of age. And so we're living longer. The post-war baby boom is a huge
Huge
cohort of
group.
people, and they're all getting into this age. So people are living longer, they're healthier. And after a relationship, either through divorce or through death, you're alone again. And do you want to be alone? Because you do have a choice. You're healthier, you live longer. So if you are, uh, do you want to do it alone?
Okay,
And it's a choice.
but you have to realize that there are many more women than there are men out there who are single. So if a woman wants to be in a relationship, you got to be pretty proactive. It takes courage.
Mhm.
You need to step up. We know that online,
It's
50-50 men
Yeah,
and
men and
women.
women.
So online is a great
So you
place
can
to
meet
meet
people you
people.
wouldn't normally meet. So it
Yeah.
is an opportunity, but you do have to be a good consumer if you're going online. There's a skill to using that process. It does have its problems and it does have its limitations, but it's also probably the best way to meet people you wouldn't normally meet.
And just putting yourself in the dating market, you might call it, it changes your chemistry, it changes your brain.
Mm.
When
You
you
get out of
sign
your
up for,
sweats.
you get out of your sweats, you start looking around the room when you go in a restaurant, you let your neighbors know that you're going online, and you go to your class reunions, and
And meet people.
you know, who knows where you might meet somebody, but your chances of an online meeting and learning how to date again, you know, anybody can do it. It's
That's
really kind
Yeah.
of fabulous.
that's right. So
And
we're trying to take the mystery and the fear out of it.
number one, get yourself a dating buddy.
Yes,
We're really strong
absolutely.
on this.
Mm.
Yes.
Find another person that can help you go online, that can be with you, that can look at the pictures with you, that can laugh,
And if you
can
have
make it fun.
grandkids, they're really some of the best dating buddies you can have because they're proficient with online
And
services
they've been
and
online
really help
dating.
you. Yes, and they know all about it, and they love to help their grandparents. That's our experience.
But we always suggest watch out for your kids, for
Yeah.
your grown kids. They may think it's fun for you to go online immediately as a lark, but the day you call them up and say, "Hey, I met this guy. I'm a little concerned. It might be a little sketchy." They're like, "Oh,
No, no,
wait,
you don't want to do this.
wait a minute, mom, dad.
No, let's put this
Let's
online
think
thing
about
on
this."
hold.
Yeah, so I have them as
No, no, they don't make the best.
best friends. There are people around. Once you start talking about dating or going online, you'll
Yeah.
find other people saying, "Oh yeah, I've done that," you know.
Yes, I know
blah,
all
blah,
about
blah.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
they're good.
Yeah.
And don't
And
let the ones that are discouraged.
Oh,
discourage
no,
you.
no. Yeah, because there are a lot of people who really, in a sense, are not good consumers. They get online, they have a couple of bad meetups, and they think, "Oh my God, no, this
Never
isn't for
again.
me." And so they're Debbie Downers, and,
Yeah.
and we suggest don't have a Debbie Downer as your
Hang in with
dating.
it, because we know people who, we have a friend in Arizona who we are dating buddies for, and she's had such a fun time with it.
Yeah,
If
she's
you know how to
excellent.
do it, even if you haven't met the perfect person, she has a fun time. She's met some people who like to hike that she's gone hiking with, but you know, and she's gone horseback riding, and
Yeah,
but you know, she hasn't found that one yet. But remember,
but she's getting close.
you remember you're only looking for one person, by the way.
yeah, yeah, I think people forget that it's not, you're not trying to find five partners, you're trying to find one. And also to remember, there isn't only one person for every person. Obviously, both of
Right.
you have been the role models for that. I agree with you. I think that we have to surround ourselves with positive people. We also, dating is a skill set, like you said. Online dating in particular is a skill set. And if you don't have a thick skin, if you don't learn how to identify people who are either scamming you or even people who put little effort in, people who just go, hey there, or tell me about yourself, or I think you're super sexy, or you're so beautiful. I mean, there are things that you can recognize if you've been online a lot, or if you work with somebody like me who can help guide you, because I teach courses on this and I work with my clients on, helping them write their profiles and get online. It is a skill set. It's not something people have to do alone. There's so much information out there to help people, because I would say most people's profiles are terrible. Most people's photos are really bad. They just misrepresent themselves. And
They put
yeah, so
their
what do you,
idealized self out there,
oh
and
yeah,
they
that too.
that's the best thing to do. And it's not, you're not selling yourself. What you want to do is present yourself so that if someone sees your profile and says, wow, this person really looks like they might work for me, they're going to meet up with that person, not your idealized self, which if they meet you after your idealized self, they said, well, this isn't the person they presented themselves to be. So you need to be honest and you need to present a profile that's really you if you're
Yeah,
going to
for
be
sure.
successful.
And we called it almost experience. You have to realize that you're going to have these experiences where you were hoping they might be a person of interest and they turn out not to be.
Mhm.
That it's not about you, it's just the connection, it
Mhm.
has to be there.
And
So
how to handle that is another skill. If you meet up with a person and they don't represent themselves accurately, so it's not someone you're interested in, you want to thank them for coming out and taking the risk of meeting you, but you want to let them know you don't want to waste their time, and you want to let them know that this isn't going to necessarily work for you, and you wish them well, and you hope that they find someone. But you appreciate the fact that they took a risk, just like for you. It takes a lot of courage to get out there,
uh,
and you want to tell people and be nice to them, even if they don't represent themselves as who they
but you
really
want
are.
to cut it off early. I mean,
Hey, edit off
don't
early.
waste time.
Don't waste time.
Don't
Don't
waste
don't
your
feel
time,
obligated. Oh, I have to see them
other
again. Oh,
people's
gotcha.
time, to let people know.
Yes.
But I want to say one thing about scamming. The
Yeah.
number one people want is money.
Mhm.
Never, never, never give money. If you
Under
do
any
not give money,
circumstances.
you will
Yeah,
find out
exactly.
that they're not interested and they're gone. We know a couple of people that have been in big scams, and both of those scams were from Nigeria. And I love to say to people, these people aren't sitting out in your front yard. They live in Nigeria that are trying to scam you. They're not there looking in your windows,
And
you
another
know?
skill online is meet the person as soon as possible
Yeah.
so that you don't spend a lot of time and you
Physically.
don't fall in love with them through texting
Yes.
or through phone calls and then not want to see the reality of who they are and that they're a scammer. So you want to meet them early before you make a connection with them or you get them into an idealized relationship.
Yeah, it's a big rookie problem. And I
It's
think,
a big
you
rookie
mentioned,
problem. That's
well,
it.
you
Yeah.
mentioned loneliness before, and I think the loneliness is what leads people to attach so quickly and to believe the scammer's lovely words about how amazing you are and you're the most incredible person they've ever met. And then the other problem I think I see a lot is you said like let people go. And I think a lot of people feel like they have to offer friendship. And I always tell people they are not your friend.
Mhm.
Don't collect friends. This is not what dating is about. Like you feel bad letting someone down, but dating is a lot of no's until you find your yes. And
Exactly.
so
You're
yeah.
interviewing for people for the most important job in your life. And so
Hmm.
it's an interview process and you're interviewing them and they're interviewing you. And that's okay. That's wonderful. That's how you get to know people and that's how you get to be a good dater is you become a good interviewer and you know the questions you want to ask and you want to find out about the person as quickly as possible. See if they really are a candidate or they're not.
Yeah.
Good profile helps with that. One of the things I said on my profile is you have to play golf.
Mm.
She said that she wanted someone with a handicap and not necessarily a physical one.
Oh, that's
Golf
cute.
handicap.
I like that. Well, using
And,
humor
and
is
it's,
great.
a lot, I remember it said, what would you give up? And I said, my golf clubs. So, you know, and I'm serious because I love to play golf every day.
Yes,
So I wanted somebody who played golf.
that's
Mm.
got to be on the ball to be with this woman.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's good to have you both challenge each other in some way and elevate each other, which I think is also really important. I'm curious what was on your lists, your must-have and deal breaker lists. Do you remember what they were?
Me or Frank?
Either one. Who would like to start?
Well, it had to be a golfer.
Yeah, I had to be somebody who played golf. I was looking for, well, just throwing it down, what, I was looking for a permanent, long-term relationship,
Yeah,
not for a hookup.
yeah.
I wanted somebody who valued family. If they didn't, so what would my deal breakers be? They didn't want somebody who had more than a drink a day or whatever. That was important to me. No alcoholism. My family has a lot of alcoholics in the family. And I'm like, so that would have been a deal breaker for me. And what else would be a deal breaker?
You wanted someone who was healthy, and so did I.
I kind of figured that golf would take care of that. I had just taken care of my husband, and I certainly didn't want another health issue.
Sometimes it's really interesting to find out what medications that a potential date are on, because that gives you a really good idea of what they are. And if they're on some pretty heavy medications, you need to take that in consideration and in terms of if you want a long-term relationship.
Mhm.
So she asked me about it, whether I was on antidepressants or, anti-anxiety medications. And luckily I wasn't, so that was good.
Well, on the flip side, you could have been depressed and not on medication.
No, the depression has not been my problem.
That's good. And what about you, Frank? What are your must-haves and deal breakers?
Well, I wanted someone who was really into life and loved life. And Gloria was like there in spades. I mean, she had such interest. She was running a foundation all on her own with her daughters and active and playing golf and playing pickleball. I've been teaching her pickleball, so it's really good. So I wanted someone who had an active lifestyle, who liked to travel and liked art, because I'm a sculptor, and besides my psychology background, and so I wanted someone who enjoyed art. And she's got one of the best art collections I've ever seen. So it's wonderful.
No more.
No
I guess
more.
you
Yeah,
like
she gave it away to her kids.
It's the health issue. Frank and I have dealt with that now. Health, I did not want somebody that I had to take care of physically.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Frank had a knee replacement recently, and I went to California, and he took care of himself in Arizona, and I saw him a month after
Yeah, I
he
got
had surgery.
professional caretakers to be there so that it wouldn't affect our relationship, because he had caretaker syndrome with her husband having so many surgeries and everything. So we certainly didn't want that to become a part of our relationship. So very early we decided no caretaking, no caretaking.
Wow, that's amazing.
No.
That's
So,
very self-aware and in a
the nurse
good
or the
way.
purse thing, that's what women love to say. Oh, I don't want a nurse or a purse. And I say they're male and female nurses.
Yes.
But we did make this decision about Frank having surgery.
And
We knew that was gonna come up.
we said the males don't want to be a wallet or a honeydewer. So and those are the kind of things that I think people need to be aware of. What are the kinds of things that are absolute no's for you, and
Well,
make sure that you put that in your profile.
The other thing is, wanted somebody who was financially responsible. I said, you don't have to have you have to have a retirement plan or whatever. You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I take care of myself financially. I expect you can take care of yourself.
And the financial issues are really important. And also the issue of whether you want to get married or not. At this point, what are some of the reasons why marriage might be important? do you not want to get married because of the complications and all the things? And if you do, you certainly want to consider a prenup, and that might not be the most romantic thing in the world, but it's certainly going to help your relationship survive if you're upfront and you know exactly where you both stand
Yeah.
financially. So that's kind of important at this point in your life.
Yeah. So lifestyle, finances, all of
Well, one
those
of the
things have to
problems with
align.
finances, which is kind of interesting, is um, how you travel and everything. Because if I'm used to flying first class and Frank isn't, I'm not going to dumb down my lifestyle because I'm with Frank.
Yeah.
So, you know, how do you deal with those kind of issues? You
Mhm.
know, does he sit in the back of the plane and you sit in the front, or do you say, you
That
know?
that doesn't work usually.
So, you know, those kind of things you have to, you know, have to figure out how you're going to
Mhm.
deal with those. And
Yeah.
that brings in your whole family, because then, you know, your kids are like, is this person trying to take advantage of you financially, you know,
Is
and you
is
get,
is
and we talk about that in
is
the
he
book.
endangering my
Yeah.
inheritance? There are all kinds of real
We
issues.
actually disclose all of what happened to us and in the relationship and everything, and with our clients as an example for people to know what can happen
And
fiscally, what kind of
questions
reaction,
you should be
and
asking.
what kind of reactions you might get from your
Mhm.
family and your kids
Mhm.
when you bring in another relationship. So it's pretty a lot. It's a lot that people have to deal with. It takes courage to come in and date again
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the relationship, but it's worth
it
it.
does.
Fabulous.
Right.
The only game in town.
Well, what you're bringing up is so important because I think a lot of people blindly go in with, we're in love, everything will work out. And that's not how it works, whether
That's
you're
No,
what
that's
20
that's
not
or
what
how
you're
it works.
happened with the
70.
Golden Bachelor. If
Oh my
anybody
Oh,
watched,
God.
yeah.
Yes, it was so
Frank and
sad.
I know Frank and I thought, wow, they haven't dealt with their family
I
issues.
wonder
Maybe
how long this is going to last, and it was three
they-
months.
right.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
clear if you watch the show to see that they both weren't really willing to budge
They
on
weren't
that.
ready. They were
Yeah.
not.
Well,
And
how
if you're
could
not
you?
compromising,
Yeah, I mean, it was unrealistic, and
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
the producers didn't do them any favors.
Well, it's reality TV, let's face
That's
it.
right.
No, but you know what? People get into relationships all the time where there are huge red flags from the start and they're clear. One person lives here, one person lives there. Neither one is willing to move. Don't
Right.
even start. Don't even start. It's not like, oh, well, we're going to hang out for a while together. We're going to be so in love, we'll figure it out. That almost never happens. And so just the reality of like, ask the right questions, have the right conversations. A lot of people, I mean, I know people who are in serious relationships where there are so many red flags that I really worry about them.
Well, you
Where
know,
they
yeah.
never can talk about hard things. That's
Yeah,
a
well, you get
huge
all these
one.
big relationship issues of age where men are, you know, with younger women, and, you know, there're just so many examples of problems connected with it and with the families, and people are
Yeah.
angry, and, you know, and those things can be worked out in advance, early,
And they should be.
early. If
They
you
should
don't
be.
early, it's going to come back to bite you.
Hmm.
We got the opportunity to interview Joan Voss, who's going to be the Bachelorette. And to her credit, she has said right up front, I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm not going to move. Anyone who comes on this program and any guy who wants to be connected to me, they need to know that up front. And I think she's very wise in doing that because that was one of the big issues that caused the
Set up some of the things.
Golden Bachelor and Teresa and Gary not to
Yeah.
work out.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to marry or not to marry is a big issue. And
Mhm.
it is particularly hard for people of our generation, because I'm 85, and you know, you got married or you were shacking up. Somebody actually said that to me. Oh, you're shacking up.
Yes, we're fiancés forever.
Well, we actually were thinking about getting married, and we still are, but from a very conservative religious background. And you know, in the 70s, you got married, you know, or it was frowned upon. Things are changing very quickly right now for everyone, be it good or be it bad. But my point is there are a lot of issues and pressures in some spectrum to get married.
Mhm.
And sometimes you know, people meet in my religious community and they get married right away before they've even worked out any problems.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
can be an issue.
Yeah, I agree. And I think last week's episode is actually about living apart together relationships, which is very common in the
Yeah.
senior community because
Yeah.
people don't always want to live in the same place all
Right.
full time. They don't want to get married, or they can get married and live apart as well. I mean,
Right.
there's so many options today. And I think the main thing is talk it out, figure out how to make it work for both of you, not one person compromising to make the relationship work and then has resentment. And my mother was a caretaker, for example, with her second husband when he got Alzheimer's. And I think it was a real horrible thing for her. He had a family that wanted her to keep him home. And it was so challenging. I used to go visit her to just get her out of the house and take her for a walk because she was not taking care of herself.
Right.
And it's a hard thing. It's a really hard thing, but I think we have to think about those things. I mean, I asked a guy once on a first phone call what his credit score was. I want to know, like,
I like that.
That's funny.
no question should be off limits. If things are important to you, talk about them early on. I'm a huge believer.
Yeah.
So as we come to a close, I would love to hear your final words of advice for anyone who wants to go on their last first date, especially seniors.
Well, I would say that you need to consider online because that's where the action is. And you need to probably get our book in order to read some of the tips about how to get online. But I think
Yeah.
it's important. And I'd like to say, do it now.
Do it now. And don't waste time. Don't question and let the fears stand in your way. Just face them and realize that, yeah, you're going to have some pleasant experiences and you're going to have some unpleasant experiences, but there's no reason for avoiding life. And if you're lonely, get out there, try it, put yourself in a position because it's both exciting
And
and
fun.
and fun.
And get yourself a dating buddy.
Yes, dating buddies are really important.
Mhm.
Yeah, tell us what a dating buddy does, because we never kind of defined that.
A dating buddy is a person who will be there for you when you have a
Either a
downer
good experience or a bad experience.
It's somebody you can laugh with.
Call and talk to and get it out and enjoy it and have fun. And by sharing it, because I'm sure you've heard the old adage, don't go into your head alone. And dating, it's very important not to go in your head alone. Be there and have friends that you can talk to about this, and good, bad, or indifferent, the experience is an experience, and you want to have fun with it. If you don't have fun, you're not going to do it.
And you're
Yeah.
dating, but somebody who knows something about online dating, hopefully.
Yes.
And they can scan through the pictures with you and laugh. And
Laugh.
you'll be surprised at the number of people who've gone online. When you start talking to people about it, you'll find people. And my daughter had a group of divorcees that she met with once a month. So that's another thing. You can do a little divorcee group where you do online dating group.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, if you put it out there, you're going to find people. You might
Yes,
meet new
yes.
friends.
But try not to do it alone, because it's a lot more fun to do it with a friend.
And by the way, a therapist is a great online dating
Exactly.
buddy.
That's
However, they're not going to be very happy when you call them at 10 o'clock at night. So you're
So I have a buddy that doesn't
so-
mind that.
so have your therapist start out maybe having your therapist support you through those fears and
Mhm,
doing
mhm,
profiles
mhm.
and all that kind of thing, and then kind of try to find some other people that you can scan through the pictures with, have a
Yeah.
cup of coffee or a glass of wine and laugh at the pictures, and they have been on some dates with maybe some of the people that you've got pictures of. And have some fun with it.
Exactly. If
Yeah.
it's not fun, you won't do it.
No, you won't do it if it's not fun. And it's scary. No, it's scary.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna
Scary
be
and fun,
Scary.
fearful and
exciting.
amazing,
life.
exciting.
It's life.
Yeah,
It's getting
it's
back
life.
into life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you something to do and it gets you out of your sweats. And like you said, it's just going on dates and showing up.
Mhm.
is big for a lot of people who just sit at home. It's a really important thing to do. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know that you have a special offer on the book.
Yes,
Can you
we
tell us
do.
about that?
You can go to Amazon
Yes.
and the code that you put in is 20 open to love. 20 to
And you
open to
get
love.
20% off. of
You
the
get
cost of it.
20% off on our book, and we've got all sorts of advice for you on how to do profiles and
Yeah.
dating buddies, and we have a special through the bedroom door, which a lot of people have found helpful in thinking about sexuality. So
Oh, awesome. And can you tell us your website so people can find you?
our website is
goldendatingdoctors.com.
goldendatingdoctors.com.
That was very nice the way you did it together.
We've got a lot of video on there, and you can find us on Instagram also, Golden Dating Doctors, and we have a Facebook page, and we have some podcasts on there for you.
Awesome. Well,
We
thank you
talk
so
more
much.
about, we have a podcast on dating buddies.
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show and inspiring
Well, thank
our
you.
senior audience to get out there and find love and to see how happy you two are. I appreciate the fact that you found love, but you also talk about it to inspire other people.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank
We've
you
enjoyed being on
very
it.
much.
Good luck to everybody.
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. If you love our show, please give us a high rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And as always, here's to your last first date. If you are ready to get unstuck, gain new tools, become more empowered, and finally find your last first date, I'd love to talk to you. Fill out an application to be considered for a complimentary half-hour love breakthrough session at lastfirstdate.com/application.